Checklist.io.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host, Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And today we're going to be talking about, or asking the question, are you wearing a mask in your marriage or relationship?
Ooh, it's a mask-off challenge.
It is a mask-off challenge. It's been a little bit of a tough morning day for us today, meaning that I just actually got off the phone with my ex-husband and had a really sort of emotional conversation, and it revealed some things. Delia got to witness
Real talk.
that was just not a fight, not a huge blow up, but it was enough that I was able to identify like some PTSD that maybe I still had, to the point where I even thought, gosh, we have a whole ass podcast about this amazing
healed from this?
healing that we have supposedly done. And now there's this trigger, and it's related to like wearing a mask for so many years, and now being put in a position that you have to maybe put that mask back on, maybe not. So that's what we're going to explore today.
I know. And it's always really difficult when you're in a relationship for a very long time, or, you know, you're divorced, and you have to, it's like, you have to know how to be, where to be, when to be. So there's always a time and place for everything. So I feel that as women, as mothers, women, you know, divorcees, or even people that are married, you always have sometimes a mask, and you try to protect the men in your life. You're like, I am not going to expose him, because if I expose him, it not only makes him look bad, but it makes me look bad because I've exposed him. And so we as women have a tendency usually to just try to protect the image, whether it's your image or his image. And I know this, you know, firsthand, because I did it for a long time.
Yes.
Where I'm just trying to pretend like I am this happy, pappy, perfect wife, and he is this happy, pappy, perfect husband.
Yes.
And that's not always the case.
Or that we're like so over it. You know how people say like, I'm over it. I'm over that. And it's like something rears its ugly head around, and you're like, and it tests you to say, are you really over it?
Yeah.
But we wear a mask to prove that we're over it. We wear a mask to prove that we're not fazed by certain things in people in our relationships. We wear a mask for lots of reasons.
Yeah, no, even for me, I will even say, because I know that, you know, this morning has been very interesting. And I'll say, like, I had an experience with my childhood cousin that was like my brother. I love him to pieces. However, I had an incident with his wife, and I have not been able to bring her to my communion, to my home, to just like allow her to break bread with me. I say, I want her, it's kind of like Tupac, it's going to sound really gangster, I want her to eat, but she just can't sit at my table. And so, meaning like, I don't want to see anything bad happen to her, but she just can't break bread with me.
Yeah.
And that's a decision that I've made because of what dark moment she brought. She was just a very dark cloud. And I think sometimes the universe shows you certain things. Like, you go through certain things because God is preparing you for what's coming. So sometimes it's more of a protection. And so it's not really that God is trying to tell you anything different other than, you know what, prepare for impact. And you get to see these things, and they hurt, and they hurt so bad that you're like, why am I going through this? But you know what? If you know that God's redirecting you, then you're going to be okay. Just know that there's a redirection, you know?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like you're saying, prepare for impact. And I know, like, for me, basically, based on that conversation today, that we were, like, realizing I became emotional for the first time in, like, 10 years, 8 years, whatever years, since the divorce, because, it, you know, I felt like I was being put in a situation where I would almost have to put that mask on that I used to wear. That mask I hung up and I left behind in that marriage. Yeah. And that role and that whole being the clown that everybody was like, oh, look at her. Like, he's totally cheating on her with everybody, and she's all happy-go-lucky by his side. And it's like I hung that sucker up, and I've been so proud of myself to be able to hang it up. And by the way, still have a somewhat friendship with him. I mean, I see him like once every 2 weeks, once a week, not really once a week, but like once every 2 weeks, a couple times a month. And we're cordial and we're respectful. And sometimes we'll have dinner with, you know, our son and my mom and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, though, what's interesting is like now there's this dynamic, and everyone's like, are you going to be there? Are you going to be there? Everyone's going to be there. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is to me like walking into the lion's den or like
Right.
the snake den. And now do I walk in bitter? Like, oh, I can't trust anybody here. Or do I put that clown mask back on and just make it look like I'm unfazed when deep inside I realized I don't want to relive that. I don't want to relive that.
Triggering something, and it's very natural for us to actually go through these emotions and to go through this like roller coaster. And I just think like you're the only one that can actually tell yourself like, how does this make me feel? And you get to a point in your life where you say, I don't care what anyone thinks. This is what feels right to me.
Yep.
And however it is that I'm going to navigate around this is what I'm going to do.
Yep.
I don't need to be, ghetto and like get in anyone's face and say anything. You know what? At the end of the day, I think that if you can keep your composure and be a lady and just say, you know what, this is what I'm deciding as a human being, as a wise woman, to just like not fight over it. Just, you know what, this isn't aligning with me and I'm not going to do it and I don't care.
And at the end of the day, we were talking about, after my conversation with him, Delia and I just kind of took a moment. Normally we would have just jumped into recording. Normally I'm not on the phone with my ex-husband. We don't ever really have these long conversations, him and I. But we had it. She got to witness part of it. And it was like, let's just sit down and let's just unpack this and process this, because there's something here. I'm not a person who gets overly emotional about really anything. Right. I'm at peace with so many things in my life. But at the end of the day, it was like I had to face this one situation.
Right.
And what it boils down to is that we were able to kind of unravel here is that I was in a marriage where even my own closest family were coming at my husband, and some of my good friends, closest friends, coming at my husband from the side. And at the end of the day, either one could argue, people could argue, oh no, it's not what you think. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, people are happy to tell on you. God is more than willing to show you the truth.
If you ask,
you will receive it. And at the end of the day, I already know what I know, and I don't need anybody telling me that it wasn't the way that I already know what I know. You know what I mean? And so to me in this situation, it's like, how do I walk in and like see, with my ex or whatever, into the situation where all of these people from the past, it's like the ghosts of Christmas past, are going to be there. And by the way, then I have to sit there witnessing the little eyes to him and his little reaction. And it's not me caring who he's with or what he's doing. Right. It's reliving that feeling of like having to put on a mask and pretend like you didn't see it.
Right.
And having to swallow that like, ugh.
The frustration, I think, more than what you're saying, the frustration in that is the fact that you're seeing it like no one is telling you. You're seeing it live. And all of a sudden they're like, it's not like that. And they almost want to paint you out to be crazy. And you're like, and there is a moment, there's a part in you where you're like, okay, did I not see that? And you're like, no, like my feelings, my vibrational feelings are telling me otherwise. Like I am seeing what I'm seeing. And the fact that you're trying to tell me otherwise, like you're almost more crazy than me, because you're trying to tell me that I didn't see what I saw.
Yeah.
And I always say like, we're always the last ones to find out about anything. And there's always that pity party kind of look they give you, like, ooh, if you only knew, poor girl. People say you're so signals. Pretty. You deserve so much better. You deserve fresh lettuce.
Fresh lettuce.
You deserve so much better. And you're like, why would that person say that to me? You know? But they are not willing to tell you exactly what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so there's a part of you that knows, like spiritually,
like where they're coming from.
You know, but you try to navigate around and say it's not what I think it is. But believe me, 9 times out of 10, it is what you think it is.
And you want to say, oh no, that's one of my closest friends. She would never. That's, my sister. She'd never. That's my cousin, my neighbor. She'd never. And the truth is, no matter what, you see it, and it just is what it is. Especially, with like my ex. I don't know about your ex, but my ex, like he'd have a couple drinks or he'd be pissed off and want to like hurt my feelings, and he would throw it out there. Oh yeah, well you're so and so, your so-called best friend did blah 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 to me, and like your so-called
most
blah,
definitely
blah.
That was
it's
something
like,
we have that in common 110%. And it was, and then after he was not mad, he'd say, oh, I was just saying that just to piss you off, and then you're like, No,
Yeah.
there is some truth and validity to what you just said. And the fact that you're trying to now say that you didn't say it, first of all, and that it wasn't like that you're just trying to get me mad. There is some type of validity there.
Yeah.
And you see it, and there is nothing that you can do to mask it, hide it, or say, like, I didn't see that. And even
But
for
me,
we try to mask it and say, oh, it's not what I think it is. But you know what? We are vibrational beings, and we feel it. We're like, that person is just no good. Mm-hmm. And I've had, cousins of mine also trying to get on my ex-husband, and it was because they thought that, oh, well, he was well-to-do, so therefore they would get an upper hand. And so I think, like, in my opinion, now being single, I don't think every man is going to be this way. I just kind of got, I wouldn't say lucky, right? Because it's not luck. But I definitely got more wisdom out of every experience that I've been put through, which has been absolutely negative. And at the time, it sucks. And I think now with time, now that I'm this age and wiser, I realize that the universe is just redirecting you into the position and the place that you need to be. And sometimes what really sucks is just God's protection for you. Meaning, like, if your husband or your significant other is going out on you, that's not going to let you fall in love the way that you would want to fall in love with him, because you have your guard up.
You're on guard.
So, you know what? If you already know your spirit's telling you, be careful, like, caution ahead, then you're not letting yourself just let go. And so if you should fall in love with him and he does these things, that's going to be like a really tough heartbreak.
It's so
I look at it like the universe is just redirecting you to where you need to be.
But in that situation, you lose either way, because you're not free in your marriage or your relationship to just love and be giddy, because you're on guard. Right. And then so you're like, oh, I don't want to get hurt if and when it all comes down to it. But then if you let yourself love and be giddy and it comes down to it, then now you're in pain too. So, like, it's like, choose your poison.
I suppose, but I think it's a lot harder to deal with. Like, I'll give you an example, and it's so funny because be careful what you wish for. I remember there was these neighbors of mine, and the gentleman was such a sweetheart. I mean, he was probably like the nicest guy you would ever meet. Like, just very compassionate, very sweet, very everything. And I remember looking at him and thinking, what an amazing man. He's married to her, and they had a really good companionship. So I love that. And I said, why can't you be more like, so-and-so? And so all of a sudden, she's under the impression that she has the man that I'm just like, wow, like, he's such a dreamy guy. And all of a sudden, he's out being with, like, hookers. And let me tell you, she was up here, like, she was on cloud 9 with him. Never, ever expected anything like this of him. So for her, imagine her fall from cloud 9 all the way to the pavement. So at least for me, I feel like there's a buffer. And I know it sounds weird, but there's a buffer. Like, there's a buffer that has happened. And I will tell you, I'll be the first to tell you, like, I don't think every man's bad, and I don't think every woman's bad.
Exactly.
I just I've happened to have
a lot of disappointing.
I've chosen people, and there's obviously something in my energy path that continues
we
to
talked
choose
about that.
the same type of people. So I don't think every man is bad, just like I don't think every woman's bad. There are bad women and bad men, but not all of them are bad. I just happen to be choosing the wrong ones, and that's okay. Like, it's just, there's a buffer. I got the buffer of it. And that's the way I look at it.
And isn't it funny how even when you know who the snakes are entering the room or coming to your house, and air kisses, oh my God, you look so beautiful,
Hollywood
blah, blah, blah.
kiss.
But they have a couple drinks and your husband walks in the room and all of a sudden it's just this other vibe. Like, isn't it amazing that we, as women, wives, whatever, we can see that. We can witness it. We can feel the, like, spike, the shock of it, the internal feeling of it, and still just sit there and, like, hold this mask up and be like, yeah, oh, okay. Like, and just not want to cause conflict. I mean, some people will go and tell the husband off or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, why are we often the ones that don't say in that moment, hey, what the heck are you doing? And like, if you're gonna behave that way with my husband, you should leave or whatever. Like, we don't do it.
But here's the thing. I think that a lot of the time, it's not anything that you can specifically say, why did you tell my husband? Well, you know, we can go to the back of the room. Because that's not something that you may have heard. It's just these nonchalant, very discreet, very like, hi,
Yep.
oh my God,
Yep.
I love champagne. It's just the bubblies. And so, and she's looking at him some type of way. You're like, okay. And you can't really call her out on that because you're like, maybe she's just buzzed. Maybe it's just something, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, that's what it
You
what
just
it boils
know what
down
it is,
to.
but you feel it. It's
you
like,
feel it, you know
I
it.
think as a woman, we know. I remember being in a movie theater. I'm talking like, I don't consider myself an overly jealous person. I'm in a movie theater. Randomly, the lights are still kind of dimming, and I hear him. He used to clear his throat. Every man has his thing. And he just randomly went like that. And I was like, where's she at? I didn't say anything to him, but I just started looking, and I see this woman, and she's very attractive, and she's trying to make her way through the thing. Very, very attractive. And he was like this, like, you know, trying to be undercover, like staring at her. I thought, okay, I wasn't going to make a big deal about that because, I mean, you know what I mean? It is what it is. She's some stranger. Maybe she wasn't a stranger. Maybe he knew her. But at the end of the day, I didn't want to live a paranoid life. But when I'm talking about people in my sphere, that I'm like, why? Like, why? Like, what's the point? First of all, for me, he was an attractive man. To me, I'm like, I get it if women are like attracted to him or whatever, but I also understand where my expectation was.
Right.
Is like, but you're my friend, or you're my family, or you're my this, or you're my that. Like, you should know that he could be freaking Mr. Universe. And you should be like, nope. But that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And then when they cross the line and you see the little googly eyes, or they're very agreeable with them, like, you know they're not into the freaking crap he's into, and he'll be talking about fly fishing, and suddenly this girl will be like, oh my God, I've always wanted to do that. And you're like,
no, you didn't.
No, you don't.
You would just die.
You don't even cook fish. Like, ocean. Relax.
Like, no. You would die in the ocean.
You know you drown.
You would drown. If not, I'm gonna drown you.
In fact, let's go to the back. Let's check out the pool.
I just, in my opinion, I feel like this. I think like in life, in general, I don't care who you are. I don't care how beautiful or not beautiful you are, or handsome or non-handsome that you are. Someone's always going to try. And so it's not about what they say, is what you react to what they say.
Of course.
And that's always my thing. It's like, I get people that will say things to me, and it's not about what they said to me. It's the way I react to it.
Exactly.
And if I'm very nonchalant, very classy about it, like, thank you very much, but no thank you, then that goes to show, like, yeah, no, I appreciate your kind gesture.
Yeah.
I am just not accepting it. And so for men, I think that we as women expect the men to have, like, that same demeanor.
Some breaks or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So there it's like, thank you, but no thank you. Like, you're not worth me losing everything that I have over this.
Yeah, they don't do any of that.
And so, that's what it boils down to. But at the end of the day, I think if you know something's off, your spirit's kind of like, if you have your spirit guides with you, they kind of like pull your shirt and say, hey, something's off. Yeah. And I think like
they're just alarms.
Power of prayer is like no joke. You ask, and I always say the devil's a
Oh, he is.
And he listens too, and he's going to show you the things that you were like, I wasn't sure if it was like that, but damn, it's like that.
So here's my question then. So I know that we wear a mask in even that situation, because I've said the same thing. I used to tell my ex, look, I don't care if 100 women line up naked auditioning for you, for your attention, or 100 men line up whatever, auditioning for my attention. Yeah. At the end of the day, I only care about your one reaction. That's it. That's all I have time and energy to even kind of focus on. So when I'm talking about strangers out there, I don't even care. But when we're talking about the people in your circle, that, you know, life as it is, it's not easy to just go out and make friends and bring people into your home and have your little tribe of people that you now feel comfortable with. Right. And you put your guard down. So now you have your tribe, and then from that tribe, the googly eyes start, and the little comments and the hee hee ha ha's back and forth, and the random texting him because, oh, I was wondering if you could help me with like my thermostat. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, what?
You're like, I didn't know you were freaking, you know what I mean?
So like why do we wear a mask in those situations? Why don't we start to like check those people in a way, like,
but I think
I never could.
So I've been the same way too, and I think it's because I'm not so confrontational, and I think if I was so confrontational, then I'd be like super hood ghetto. Not saying that people that,
but is there a nice way to do it? Like, is there a way to just acknowledge for them to know you know?
It's because it's so difficult, because in my opinion, I feel like it's so nonchalant. Like,
it's hard.
I'll give you an example. Like, I'm having Thanksgiving dinner. You know, we're sitting there, and she decides to sit like on the right side of him, like, let's say my ex-husband, and she's grabbing her champagne. She's like, I don't know what it is about champagne. It just does something to me. And it's like, and how do you call?
If you're listening in your car, we're like swaying around and like grabbing ourselves.
She's like, woo! And so I was watching her, and I'm like, is she really that buzzed? And in my mind, I'm like, maybe it's not her. Maybe it's me. Am I tripping? Because I get it. We as women are territorial, and I'm not going to call her out. It's Thanksgiving. I'm not going to ruin the dinner. Like, I spent a day cooking, and I'm just like, maybe I'm tripping. And then you know it's real is like when someone kind of validates it.
Yes.
Like, maybe someone at the table was like, what was up with that? Did she need to like touch her body when she drank that champagne?
Yes.
And so at that moment, you could call her out, but it would ruin the entire dinner. And so at that moment, you have to think, is this worth me ruining everybody's night? Because that's what you would do.
Yes.
And so you have to go through, I mean, there are people that don't care. They'll flip the table.
But then it's like, oh my gosh, why is she so jealous? Oh my God, I was
She's
just
crazy.
saying I like fly fishing.
I just like Dom P. Like, I didn't know Dom P did this to me.
Exactly.
You know? But the thing is, at that moment, you have to really, like, for me, I really think before I act. So I'm like, if I should get up and tell her, you did not need to do that with the champagne, and like, literally do it like housewife style and flip the table. I'm gonna ruin everyone's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but I'm also not talking about flipping the table. Like, in my mind, I'm like, dang, she went straight from 0 to like flipping this shit.
Well, I mean,
for me, I'm thinking more in terms of like
taking her to the kitchen.
I'd just be like, you've never liked fishing, but tonight you clearly like fishing with my husband. I don't know, like fighting, and it's so hard because I've never been able to do it. So I'm not even trying to give advice
know. Like,
about that.
I really try to think about. I think I would look more at the reaction of the person that I'm with more so than what they're saying, because I always say it's not what people say to you, it's how you react to what people say to you.
But
right?
if you see her that she becomes slippery, like my grandma used to say, now she's a slippery one. Is she still the one you invite to the barbecues? Is she still the one you invite to go to the river?
And so I think at that moment, you know, it's only until you see her cross that line, or you try to like minimize the invitations. Like, I will tell you, this particular person, like, I don't invite her to anything. And I mean, my situation's been done for a long time, and I'm like way past that. But I just don't need that type of people around me. Like, there is nothing about you that I need, and I don't wish her ill will. Again, I hope she eats, but she can't sit at my table. Like, I don't want you breaking bread with me. I don't care to have you around me. And so that's my demeanor when it comes to that. And I know that like my family has had a really hard time with it, because they're like, why are you, and they know that I'm pretty passive. But I'm like, look, she's a dark part of my life. I don't want to open those wounds, and I don't want her around me. Yeah. I don't care if I'm single. I don't care if I get remarried. I don't want her around me. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it just boils down to always knowing that for every action, there's a reaction. And how is that action to that reaction going to affect whether it's your marriage, your family, your communion? If it's, you know, usually when you come together with people, if there's alcohol, you're usually at a gathering, a birthday, a this, a that, and you don't want to be the person that are like, oh, yeah, they got into a big fight.
The
they
bitter
always
one.
Do that. They always get, this is so
or coming off jealous, because that's part of wearing the mask, right?
Of course.
Is that we don't want to look jealous. We don't want to look bothered.
Right.
We don't want to give that
impression.
Yeah, our energy. We don't want to make her feel empowered, because let me tell you, the slippery ones, they even feel empowered when they know you, like,
they're
you
like,
call
I
them
got
out.
under her skin.
Like they say, even in business, the first one to lose composure loses.
Right.
And so guess what we do? We try to keep it together, act unfazed, and we're wearing a mask. And I realized today, 10 years later, that mask is a heavy mask. It's a dirty, dusty, freaking heavy mask. And today, in a way, being faced with potentially having to put it back on, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me, and I want nothing to do with it. And it's like a haunting, almost like, where I'm like, I rebuke it in the name of Jesus, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what becomes really tough, because then on the flip side, you go, come on, Rachel, like, you're not that kind of person. You're bigger than this. And at the same time, I'm realizing, no, it's just PTSD. It's just pain, and I need to, like, work through it.
Yeah, no, and I will tell you, I think at the end of the day, like, you have to tap into your inner source, your spirit, and say, I don't care if this seems right or wrong, or I should do this. People say that this is the way I need to do it. I don't care what people say. It's what feels right to me.
Yes.
And you know what? Because no one is going to be bringing or taking this avatar. I'm the only one. It's about the way that I approach things, meaning I'm not going to be like, F that, I don't want to be around that, F and, bitch, because she did this. No, I mean, I can be very classy about it, just like, I have no business to be around her. I have no intention to break bread with her. I don't like her. I don't want to say hi to her. I'm not normally like this. I'm usually very passive.
Yeah.
But you know what? If she kind of instills, or she like kind of, she muddles the muddy water within me, and I don't want to have to go there where I do a show, because I mean, we all have it in us, whether we are under composure or not. We all have it within us to just lose it.
Yes.
We all can lose it at any time. And I don't want to lose it and then be disrespectful to anyone's birthday, to anyone's event. I'd rather just not be around that person, because I don't want to disrespect myself, my family, whomever I'm around. I'd rather just keep my composure and say, you know what? I am choosing not to be around her. I don't want her near me. I don't need to say hi to her. Again, I can't stress this Tupac enough.
Yeah.
Tupac energy.
Tupac
energy. It's like, I don't want you not to eat, but you just can't sit at my table.
I was thinking when you were speaking, I was like, at the end of the day, when we're trying to figure out how do you handle people that make you feel like you got to wear the mask, right? The shady ones, whatever the situation is. And I was thinking about something, because when you were saying not all men make you feel this way,
right.
I think as women we seek to feel safe,
right,
and stuff like that. And what I learned by being single and dating was, I learned that there was something I needed from my husband that I didn't realize that I needed until I dated someone else and they gave it to me. And that thing was a willingness to protect and defend our relationship from anything and anyone.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that when I left my husband and everything, and I started getting involved with this other person who is a really great guy and everything, he has some people that come out of the work as soon as he finds out, kind of like your ex. It's like, once they know who they are and what kind of money they have, then people go, oh, and they start to act different. That's the kind of guy he was. So anyways, it was really interesting that he one day said to me, so does this person that you introduced me to, always time I got to mention her, does she always hit on guys that are interested in you and that you're interested in? And I looked at him and I thought, whoa, because she was already a sensitive topic in my marriage.
Right.
And then he said that, but let me tell you something about when he said that. Because he was like, you need to figure that out. Yeah. He was willing, this man that I didn't give kids to,
right,
this man that I wasn't married to for 20 years,
right,
this man that's just interested in me, like interested in building some kind of life with me, had the decency, the common decency. Maybe he was flattered by the gestures she was making. I wasn't there to witness that part to see his reaction, but I do know he was very quick, because it was like 2 nights before, and then I saw him the 3rd night after, and he was like, let's just talk about your little person over here. And it was like he brought it to my attention, and it was like, you have people like that around you. But the thing was about it was, gosh, it put into perspective that in a marriage, your husband, whether it's your cousin or your sister or your neighbor or your best friend or whoever it is, are hitting on him. He could feel flattered, but he should also go to you and be like, you know, babe, I know you're really close with so and so. I don't think you can trust her.
Well,
and the fact that they won't like protect
and
you.
It goes back to the kingdom that I've talked about this in like many episodes ago. I think that if you get married with the understanding that your man's your king, you're the queen,
yes,
and you have a kingdom,
yes,
and there are peasants that are going to try to get in to your kingdom,
the village idiots.
And guess what? You got to know how to protect that. And if you don't know how to protect your kingdom, that's where you're screwed.
But you have to both
get invaded.
do it. But you have to both,
and because
right?
women are just as bad.
Yes.
And I can sit here and talk about men all day long, twice on Sundays, and say how bad and what cheaters they are. But let me tell you, women are just as bad. And I always say this: women are just as bad, sometimes even worse. And women are a little sneakier.
Yes.
And so that goes without saying that, you know what? At the end of the day, it's not what someone says to me. It's how I react to that. The way that someone, you know, whatever they're telling me. Especially if I'm in a relationship or if I'm married, it's like, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much. If you shut that door and you're like, thank you very much, but no, not today, not ever. People know how to buy that. But if I'm just like, oh, I love this. Oh, thank you. I love this champagne. It's so yummy. I thought you would never say that about me. And then all of a sudden, that door is way open. It's so like, open. I'm all about this life. Open. Yeah. And so, you know, at the end of the day, it's not what they say, it's the way you react.
So I feel like that realization was so huge for me because I knew in my marriage I was missing something other than monogamy, clearly, but I was missing something deeper, and I knew it was like, is it respect? What is it? I couldn't put my finger on the one thing I probably needed to feel safe, and that was that thing. This person, like I said, that I was only, you know, talking to for like just under a year, he had more respect for our relationship, and by the way, and he had more a desire to protect me, right, that my own husband didn't have, because if somebody in my circle was flattering him, he freaking took that and he gobbled it up.
He was like, let's do it.
He was like super flattered and super into it, and he vibed off of it clearly, and they just had the synergy where this guy could have done the same thing, because what does he owe me, right? And he was like, this was like red flags to him about the people that I was surrounding myself with, and it was like he felt bad for me.
I think sometimes, obviously not everyone operates the way that you do, so people's intent and intention are completely different, and at the end of the day, you have to know who's around you. And you know what, sometimes, like, in my opinion, there was a moment in time, and I'm like a big mom, and I'm kind of going on a little bit of a tangent, but I will say, and I'll come back to it. There was a moment in time, like, I'm a big mama's girl. I love my mother, but there was something that I was going through, and there was a moment where I thought she was going to try to talk me into something that was not good for me in my lifetime. And I remember thinking, if she tries to talk me into this, she doesn't want what's best for me. And sometimes, I don't care if it's your mom, it's your grandma, and I'm a family unity, love. Like, you gotta just fight for that blood. But there was that moment where I'm like, I need her to fight for me. And and if she reacts this way, I'm gonna have to cut her out of my life. Wow, and thankfully, you know, I prayed on it. I got to where I needed to, got to my mother, and she reacted the way I was hoping she would. And I love my mother to pieces. But my point is that sometimes it doesn't matter who's in your life. Sometimes people that could be very related to you don't have the best interest at hand for you. So at that moment, you have to kind of, you know what, distance yourself and then remove yourself from that situation. Say, you know what, I know that blood is thicker than water, but sometimes the loyalty that people have for you that aren't even related to you is a lot bigger. And to me, respect and loyalty, you can't go buy that at the store.
You can't.
Yeah, I can't tell you, Rachel, give me a box of loyalty and respect when you come back.
And you can't pull it out of someone, no matter how long you've been with them.
It doesn't matter.
No matter what your relationship is to them, you can't. You could be blood. You cannot pull it out of them.
If it's not in them, it's not in them. It's not in them.
It's not in them.
And so for me, that's huge. Respect and loyalty. If you respect me and you're loyal to me, I mean, I can't even put a value on you. But there's people that don't have that. And so at that point, you have to tell yourself, like, at what point do I remove myself from this equation? Because you know what? There's no respect and no loyalty.
The mask.
and remove
when
the mask
do
and
you
say,
get
you
the
know
courage
what,
as a
I'm
wife
good.
to remove the mask and to be like, if somebody goes, Mija, is he, look at, he's getting kind of close to her over there. And just, and, you know, normally be like, oh no, it's because he's had a cute couple drinks. No, instead take the mask off and be like, look at him. And you know what? When the marriage ends, now you're going to freaking know why. Like, but we don't remove the mask. We hold it together. We want to hold it together. We want to make it look good on social media.
Of course.
We want to make it look good to our friends. You
always smile for a picture.
Right? We want to, like, it's the family. But when you're the only one on guard for the family and your king has gone on with all these other people, you're like locking the doors and windows and setting the traps, and he's over there, you know, creating a way with the secret door, saying, it's okay, come over here.
Come over here, And I think that these are the life experiences, and I think that every time that, you know, someone falters on you and doesn't show you respect or loyalty, if you decide to stay in that particular situation, I would just say, in my opinion, that it's a buffer, meaning like, there's a part of you that won't let yourself like go that deep with someone, because there is no reason why you cannot just have this eternal amazing love for somebody that you know that no matter what, he's gonna have my back and I'm gonna have his back. But there is something that happens when a person is that shady that you're like, I'm just gonna take it, if I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna take it as a buffer, meaning I'm not gonna let myself fall so deeply in love, because obviously he's showing me that he's not loyal and he's not being respectful. And so even though you're still there and you have the mask on, when that mask finally comes off, you'll come to the realization that you're so glad that these things took place, which sounds really crazy. And the things that you've been through, it's like you're grateful for them, because had you have not been through those buffers, you would be in such a hard place. Because you know what, the universe redirects you. Okay, well, you know what, maybe he's not supposed to be your forever, but at least you get wisdom out of it. Like these are life experiences that you get wise and you get wisdom. And again, I can't stress this enough, not every man's bad and not every woman's bad. But some men are shady and some women are real shady too.
And sometimes they match up in your living room or in your freaking at their job.
I didn't know I was doing matchmaker.com in my living room.
Oh,
like, okay, well,
like
that's what it is.
The late great Maya Angelou once said, when God shows you who they really are, believe them.
It's so true.
Well, I guess we're going to end it with that. Don't forget to stay till the end. We have a wonderful mantra that you can screenshot and say to yourself and have it handy as a reminder that you deserve fresh lettuce. Cheers.
Cheers. As always.
Tequila.